In Jules Verne's classic literature, there's a character named Jacques Paganel. He was a brilliant geographer, a man of immense knowledge, who famously misdirected an entire expedition because he learned the wrong language and misread his maps. Modern enterprise software development is currently trapped in this same condition. Companies possess staggering technological execution power, but they are operating on the wrong maps. This creates the translation tax, the massive financial and temporal cost of trying to squeeze the vision of a subject matter expert, the SME who actually understands the business domain, through layers of middlemen just to get working code. Enterprise software usually fails not from a lack of technical coding skill, but from a failure to translate local, contextual business intent into a digital reality. Consider the standard corporate handover. A risk manager passes domain knowledge to a principal engineer, who then hands requirements down to an offshore contractor. At every single step of this telephone game, critical knowledge bleeds out. Often, the teams involved cannot even agree on their own shared terminology. This is because every company speaks its own corporate foreign language. It is a dense, undocumented tribal lingo that acts as a wall between the business and the people building its tools. Human contractors burn immense cognitive energy just trying to decipher this hidden environment. They have to overclock their brains to make sense of tribal knowledge before they can write a single line of code. Companies pay millions for these contractors, many of whom never reach positive productivity because the cost of learning the local language is too high. Human middlemen are becoming too slow and expensive to decode this tribal knowledge. This is why organizations are looking toward AI as a way to bypass the tax. Enterprises are now handing AI tools to these same developers and offshore teams, hoping for an instant fix to their development costs. But this diagram reveals a fatal flaw. AI possesses near-omniscient knowledge of the public industry on the left of this continuum. It masters every programming language and every public API, the standard rules that allow different software programs to communicate. However, the AI knows zero about the right side of the continuum. It is blind to your organization's unique tribal knowledge, its expert logic, or the secret sauce that makes the business competitive. In Robert Sheckley's classic sci-fi story, Ask a Foolish Question, humanity discovers that to get a meaningful answer from an omniscient machine, you must already understand the domain well enough to formulate the precise query. Handing AI to a junior developer who is a tourist in your business yields little value. The AI is a hyper-efficient execution engine, but it remains deaf to the business if the user doesn't possess the internal corporate DNA to ask the right questions. Because AI executes code so rapidly, the human carries a new specific burden, the need for absolute clarity of intent. When the machine builds in seconds, there is no longer a human middleman to catch and interpret a vague request. Organizations have to separate the pure intent of a system from its downstream execution. Think of this separation in biological terms. The visual models, diagrams, and domain rules defined by the subject matter expert are the DNA, the pure, immutable blueprint of the business. The AI agents are the RNA. They are merely the messengers and builders that read the expert's DNA and transcribe it into executable code. Warning tone. If that intent isn't captured rigorously at the DNA level, the AI RNA will simply mass-produce a structurally flawed system faster and cheaper than humans ever could. Why did enterprises become so dependent on offshore taxi models that wall off their own experts from the architecture? It comes down to a structural flaw called the IC, or individual contributor ceiling. In most companies, the only way an expert can increase their influence is to stop building and start managing people. This management lib strips experts of their ability to evaluate raw complexity. It forces leadership to rely on safe, mainstream consensus and proposals hidden behind highly abstracted slide decks. AI shatters the ceiling. Today, a single senior technologist does not need a management title to scale their impact. They can wield the same output power as a 50-person development team. The corporate power dynamic is flipping. Organizations no longer require a mass transit fleet of tourist developers when a resident expert has the tools to drive the architecture directly. This introduces a new role for the expert, the complexity cartographer. The cartographer maps the DNA of the business visually and logically. They step directly inside the structural frame of the architecture, while AI generation engines handle the downstream execution. This diagram illustrates Humphrey's bypass. It relies on Humphrey's law, the reality that users rarely know what they want until they see what they don't want. The cartographer uses this shortcut to circumvent the slow, gridlocked traditional development routes. The iteration loop drops from months to minutes. The cartographer defines the intent, the AI generates it instantly, and if it's wrong, the expert simply tweaks the DNA and regenerates. A massive offshore AI coding fleet is no longer a competitive moat. That power has become a commodity. Resolving tone. Surviving the intelligence explosion requires removing the translation tax at the source. It requires a domain expert who can map their own corporate DNA, turning localized knowledge into an executable system.